Hey friendo, Steve here. Welcome back to Ask WrestleJuice. You guys, as always, left a bunch of great questions. We're going to dive into them. I'll be honest, you guys left like 140 questions. It's impossible to get to all these. But I pulled out the ones that I thought, would be a wide variety of stuff. And we're going to talk about Doom and Gloom to kick things off. Mega Nike 1986. What a great name. Says, with the low attendance numbers at their shows, will AEW still be around in 5 years if the low attendance persists? We've all seen the pictures on social media of AEW's. There's one, I think this was like from Collision not too long ago. And if you follow the WrestleTix Twitter account, you can keep a running tab on just how bad AEW's attendance issues are. There's a couple exceptions to this. Generally speaking, their pay-per-views still do pretty well. Not talking about Ring of Honor. The latest Ring of Honor pay-per-view, Final Battle, apparently is having some real issues. But the AEW pay-per-views are still selling pretty well. It's just like the sort of meat and potato shows. Dynamite does okay. I think the last Dynamite this past Wednesday had like 6,000 in attendance or 5,500, something like that. But like Collision, that's been a bit of a different story. Here's my little conspiracy theory as it pertains to that. I don't think Tony Khan actually cares. And I'll tell you why. Because I don't necessarily think that their attendance issues have everything to do with like lackluster creative. That creative and the quality of said creative is kind of a nebulous thing. Like a lot of people talk about AEW and finding its, including myself, talk about finding its identity and going back to what it did best and it needs to be better. And not a lot of people have like real concrete ideas as to what that actually means. There are concrete reasons as to why their attendance isn't better, though, and a lot of it has to do with publicity. I saw this post here from the WrestleTix account, and it said this. I sought the opinion of TVA's fight analyst and co-author of 4 wrestling books, Pat LaPrade, who also attended the show, and this is in response. This is this past week's Collision. This is from WrestleTix. And it had an attendance of like 2,800, right? Not good at all, especially the fact that it's in like basically a basketball size arena. And he shared the following insights. AEW could have improved its publicity for the show in this market and should have started weeks ago. There is no buzz around the 2 shows at all. This sentiment has been echoed by many people involved in the media here. Additionally, the ticket prices were a concern for fans, especially with WWE hosting a cheaper show in the market in less than a month. These factors adversely affected both Collision and Dynamite, but the impact was greater on Collision as this show is not generally broadcast on cable TV in Canada, but only on TSN's streaming service. There was also a Dynamite. Let's see here. Anyways, so I have heard over the last couple of months that advertising for these AEW shows in the markets they are in is what you'd refer to as piss poor. This would seem to be a fairly easy fix. I would think that if Tony Khan threw basically resources, which means money, at the situation, beefed up his marketing team, beefed up his, public relations team, whatever the people are that go out and get media interviews for people that buy advertising in those areas, I would think that that's a relatively easy thing to fix. I don't know exactly what the result of that would be, but you would think marketing helps, advertising helps. So then you got to ask yourself, why isn't he doing that? I refuse to believe that somebody who's running this whole business for 4 years and has had plenty of good sellouts and opportunities at marketing and has been successful at that stuff in the past. I refuse to believe that Tony Khan doesn't know how. That he's just I don't know how to get to people on TV to talk about our show. I don't know what to do here. I don't think that's the case. If you really think about it, attendance hasn't been, I don't know why I'm holding this pen, attendance for wrestling shows on the level of WWE AEW has never really been the thing that matters for them, not in the modern age. The thing, as we all know, that really, really matters is is that TV money. Now, for my money, so to speak, whenever I watch an AEW show, Dynamite or Collision, those are the ones that I watch, I never really notice, it's never super obvious, or it's usually not super obvious, that it's a really small crowd. They shoot the show in a certain way to maximize the location of the fans. And yes, when they go wide or you happen to catch a shot of the upper deck and it's conspicuously dark, it doesn't really stand out that much because all the light is on the people and the people in the ring and the people in the stands. So it always looks like they're at a bigger venue and there are people in attendance. Now, sometimes smaller crowds will mean less energy. So it's not like a hot show like a WWE one where they can go wide and show every single person up there, up in the upper deck, in the lower deck, this way, that way, the other way. So it doesn't have that kind of energy behind it on TV, but I personally don't feel like the television product suffers all that much because of the low attendance. Ticket sales are not that massive of they don't factor so heavily into the business model so as to say, okay, well, if this attendance continues for 5 years or keeps on going down incrementally, is it going to tank the business? There's sort of one thing that kind of really, really matters, and that's what Tony Khan is actively trying to do, and that's secure a really good media rights deal, a really good television deal. According to Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer, the company has grossed more money this year than at any year in its history. We just don't know about the profitability aspect. However, the thinking is if he gets a really good media rights deal, if he gets a really good TV deal, then the company will be profitable. And then, who gives a shit about the attendance? And so that's sort of the key. I think that's everything. I mean, if you look at the numbers on the initial pre-sales for the All-In show, 9 months from now or whatever, they're really, really good. Those tickets are moving really, really good. That's like a big event. And they did, if you notice, a shit ton of advertising for that big event, for their pay-per-views. I think they probably advertised quite a bit locally for the pay-per-views as opposed to maybe the shows. I would imagine, and again, this is my own pure speculation, I know it's popular to dunk on AEW right now, but I would imagine that the touring schedule that AEW implements is not really sort of done to maximize attendance, meaning they're not hitting markets that haven't been hit before because it wouldn't be profitable for them to hit those markets. It's better for their production or whatever to hit the markets that they hit and then do sort of a loop. I'm guessing, I am assuming, again, this is just my guess because I don't think Tony Khan is that inept when it comes to his business. I think he just understands, well, let's put all my resources into A, B, and C, and I don't need to put a lot of resources over here because low attendance isn't that big of a deal. Will it be eventually? I don't know. I mean, are they going to get to the point where they need to stop booking basketball arenas and start booking smaller venues like they did in the early days of AEW? That might be beneficial. That might be a smart way to go, and we'll see if that's something that they do. But I don't think that the low attendance in particular is going to be the thing that tanks them. If the ratings for Dynamite start to plummet, which really they haven't. They've kind of held steady at 800 and 800, between 800 and 850 on a normal Wednesday. They've sort of held steady with those numbers on Dynamite. Collision and Rampage, let's be completely honest, those are dog shit time slots. I personally think AEW probably benefit by moving Collision to a Thursday on a non-TBS or TNT channel within the Warner Brothers networks, because who cares if it's running against NBA? But if you're on that channel on a Thursday, you're going to be preempted by the NBA. But putting Rampage on a Friday night and Collision on a Saturday night, that's just really, really bad for ratings for the product. I mean, nobody's going to be watching that shit on a Saturday. So that's why Collision often does between 400 and 600,000 in the total viewership. Put it on a Thursday in prime time on Travel Channel or whatever other channel they've got on Warner Brothers Discovery Networks. They've got a bunch of them. You put it there, it's probably going to do a heck of a lot better. Maybe Warner Brothers Discovery doesn't care about that. I don't know what the deal is. But I do feel like if Tony Khan gets what he's looking for, and that's a really lucrative TV deal, given that Dynamite's ratings, Dynamite's sort of the anchor show, I feel like they'll probably be okay and they'll continue to exist 5 years from now. You have to remember, you guys have to remember this. Tony Khan is from a billion-dollar family. Sorry, I should say like a multi-billion-dollar family. We have to remember just how, and I'm going to try to say this word, unfathomable that amount of money is. If you guys have ever seen Citizen Kane, there's this part where Charles Kane is sinking all his money into this newspaper, and his buddy's like, man, if you keep on sinking all this money in this not profitable newspaper, you're going to go broke. And he's like, yeah, I'll go broke in 60 years. Tony Khan's not going to go broke by spending hundreds of millions of dollars on AEW. Eventually he'll get what he's looking for. And on top of that, if you recall, wrestling is pretty cyclical. I'm sure the creative of AEW will go back up. It'll be a good company again. People will be all into it probably within a year or two. So anyways, that's how I feel about AEW's low attendance issues. In short, I really don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. What really matters is the TV deal, but let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Next question. Brennan says, what's your favorite guilty pleasure match? Something you know is bad, but enjoy regardless. I don't have that, but I do have my sort of guilty pleasure wrestling viewing. And that's like, I don't know, sort of early 90s WCW stuff. It fascinates me. I always get a kick out of watching the guys who came up huge in the Attitude Era get their start, like Austin, Hall, Nash, all those guys. It really cracks me up, and for some reason, they're all part of WCW. Chris Jericho, too, says, do you think part of the reason Timeless Toni Storm and to a lesser extent Julia Hart are so beloved is they seem to be the only women on AEW TV with character and development? I think they're beloved because they have character and development. I think that they need to focus on that for other people. But Timeless Toni Storm, it's a very, very unique gimmick. And Julia Hart has just, I don't know, she's got the whole House of Black branding and she's embraced that character and she does really good stuff with it. And the presentation's off the charts. And people have really responded to that. They've made the most of their opportunities. And let's face it, in AEW, opportunities for women do not come very often. And it's a shame because I feel like they should endeavor to sort of, feature their women's division a bit more. White Brownie says, what's something from a presentation standpoint do you hope to see with WWE aside from new sets in 2024? They'll never do it because Triple H basically follows the Vince playbook, but get rid of cameras that shouldn't be there backstage. If there's a private conversation between two people, there's no reason why a camera should be there. There just isn't. So find a different way to film that. Guardian Ape, do you think AEW will ever invest or start a developmental product or search like WWE does with NXT and their college athlete scoutings? Or will they continue to rely on mostly established wrestlers from other companies? I mean, they've got a developmental brand. It's called Ring of Honor. But will they ever sort of do the next in line college stuff? You never say never. You never know. I don't know. I kind of feel like they will probably scour the indies more, though. Jay Hunt Jones says, do you think a name change alone is enough to elevate TNA/Impact going forward into the next year? What other steps do they need to follow up with to keep potential new eyes on their product? They need to sign headliners. Their entire company, their entire roster is awesome and it's stacked, except for like their headlining men's singles championship guys. They don't have a lot of those, like big headline guys, right? Like who's their CM Punk? Who's their Okada? Who's their Seth Rollins? It's like Josh Alexander, and no offense to anybody else there, but there's not really anybody else there. So they need that. And they need, better TV production, probably. I haven't watched Impact in a little while. I'm going to watch like the first TNA episode and see how that is. I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on that, and hopefully they can sort of, make some big moves. And it's not like it's not like a destination location for a lot of wrestlers. It's like, well, if AEW and W, that's not actually true. I feel like TNA is probably the second biggest destination for women's wrestling after WWE in America anyways. Because I feel like, I honestly feel like AEW, really, there's no opportunities there for women to break through. It just does not happen very often. So I kind of feel like TNA is probably the number 2 choice. That's my opinion. I don't know. I'm not there though. 2001 Royal Rumble entrant number 5 says, if you can make one change to the current Royal Rumble format to bring in more eyes, what would it be? 40 people, 40 men. That's what I would do. Baskin Charge, a bit random and not wrestling related, but I recently rewatched Matt Reeves' The Batman and was reminded how much I love that movie. Have you seen it? If so, what'd you think? Might be my favorite Batman movie. It's either that or Batman 89, one of the two. Yeah, that movie's awesome. Awesome. It's like the first 30 minutes of that movie is like the best Batman that's ever been shown on TV or in movies or on screen. Eric Groupus, I don't know, says, have you had time to watch the show The Wrestlers yet on Netflix? It's the OVW show with Al Snow and all them. I've watched everything except for the final episode, and I really like it. It's really, really well done. I have not seen the final episode because I kind of feel like they're going to have their big show. Al Snow's going to wrestle and it's going to go good. But like, it really is kind of funny how they really kind of lie about, like, the narrative is not a true one in that. They try to present OVW as like the only like promotion that weathered the storm of WWE taking everybody down in 2001. And we all know that wasn't the case. But I thought it was pretty interesting. There's some really interesting wrestlers in that. K-Dog says, how did you and Larson find your ways to Machinima way back when? So next year will be the 15-year anniversary of when Larson and I first worked together in Machinima. He got there, I think, a year earlier. So this year was his 15-year anniversary. But yeah, he started working there because one of the head guys there he had worked with before asked Larson to come in. He did. And then I was going down from Sacramento to San Diego in 2009, and he called me up. Said, hey, you want to come through and do a voiceover at this place? I was like, yeah, sure. And then from there, he just kept on giving me work. And then I got signed on, and we got 10 for the win, and the rest was history. Masked Man says, it's almost the end of the year, so it's time I asked for the yearly wrestling checkup. What are your thoughts of wrestling as a whole in 2023? How are you feeling about the state of it now? What would you rate wrestling in 2023 out of 5 stars? I'd give it 5 stars because I thought it was awesome. I think there were a lot of really good things to like in 2023, especially the removal of Vince McMahon from creative of WWE. I thought that was pretty awesome. Yeah, a lot of good things to look forward to in 2024. The wrestling's been off the chain. It's been really, really good. Surprises galore, lots to love. It doesn't matter what kind of wrestling you like. If you like it, it's out there. ABP says, you think Gunther's staying Intercontinental Champ majority of 2024? Going into Bash of Berlin still as Intercontinental Champion. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what their plans are for the World Heavyweight Championship. So, yeah, I think he's probably going to be Intercontinental Champion most of 2024. I don't know, though. It depends on how well his reign goes. Like, if it continues along this path and it doesn't get old, then I don't know. Sky's the limit, I guess. Jose asks, not wrestling related, but do you still keep up with... Boy, you guys got a bunch of personal questions today. Do you still keep up with people from Machinima? I mean, yeah, like to a degree. I mean, I'm still like, on good terms with people, but like we don't work with any of them. So I don't know, like I'll respond to tweets and stuff and like their Instagram posts from time to time. So, but I don't like have, conversations with any of them. Edward Thorpe Brown says, who's had the better WWE career? AJ Styles or Kurt Angle? I find it crazy to think that AJ's time in WWE has now lasted longer than Kurt Angle's. Who's had the better WWE career? I mean, they're on par, right? Because like they're both known for great matches. They both were world champions. I kind of feel like Kurt Angle, because he was to a degree, homegrown there. I know he did an NWA show before, and obviously he was an Olympic champion before that, Olympic hero, whatever you want to call it. Gold medal winner. But Kurt Angle, we got to see him rise in professional wrestling at a ridiculously fast rate. So I'd probably give the edge to him, but that's because his career was like an all-timer. That 6 years was absolutely outstanding. AJ Styles, he's up there too, though, man. He's awesome. Faker says, who do you think will be the biggest name to switch promotions in 2024? Mercedes Moné is going to go back to WWE. E. David Bruce, would you rather be in the front lines of the Star Trek question? Here we go. Let's go. Would you rather be on the front lines of the Dominion War or in the Delta Quadrant in the middle of nowhere? In the Delta Quadrant, easily. If you watch Deep Space Nine during the Dominion War, everybody was really depressed and down, and everybody was getting killed and maimed. Delta Quadrant, Voyager, they were just chilling. They'd find friendly people all the time to go hang out with, and they seemed like they were fine. With the exception of that two-parter Year from Hell, everything was good. Nick, my hero, says, what's your funniest wrestling moment of 2023? Easily, it's Shane McMahon blowing out his quads doing a leapfrog. Oh my God, I felt bad for the guy. But that shit was hilarious. And then Snoop Dogg had to save the day. By the way, that new Snoop Dogg Mike Epps movie looks amazing. Richard Ives says, what do you think of Billy Corgan's time as the NWA owner and booker? I mean, he's done more to try to elevate NWA than like anybody before him since like the 80s. So good on him. I mean, I'm not really into the NWA, but you know, they've got stuff going on there. James Forster says, do you think that AEW is peaked or that they're just on a low period at the moment? I think they're just on a low period at the moment. John O'Davy says, yo, Steve, do you think Jay dropping the eat could actually be a good thing? I sometimes feel a catchphrase can be detrimental to a performer and inadvertently lead to them being one-dimensional. No, I think it's a bummer. I don't think it's going to be a good thing. I don't think it's going to be a bad thing necessarily because I think Jay Uso is more than just yeet. You know, it's good for people to have that one thing that they can acknowledge their favorite wrestlers with. And Yeet was that one thing with Jey Uso because people really like him. So, yeah, I don't think it's going to be a good thing. I hope they're able to bring it back, man. Let's see here. Shotgun Sean says, in your last hot take video, a lot of people agreed the actual wrestling aspect of these shows are the most boring part. Is the reason why AEW product is cold is because it's too wrestling heavy. I think a case could be made. That's why I like the Continental Classic, because it kind of infuses like just wrestling with the intrigue of a round robin tournament. I mean, it doesn't really seem to be doing much for their ratings, but Portable Power Podcast says, when they finally reveal the Devil's Goons, do they do it piecemeal, like gradually, or all at once in a huge reveal? All at once in a huge reveal. That's how they're going to do it. That's how they should do it. The Undisputed Era, minus Bobby Fish, but plus Wardlow, all unmasking at the same time. That'd be good. Clever Username says, if you and Larson never met, how different do you think your lives would have been? Very, very different. We met very early on. We met in high school. We became really good friends in college. If I had gone, we've known each other so long that if we had never met, our entire sort of life paths would have gone. Like once I graduated high school, I still would have gone to like college. But if I'd never become friends with my friend Jeff, I never would have met Larson. And so if that never would have happened, yeah, my life would have been a lot different. It's hard to even fathom what that would have been, you know. I don't know. Some guy says, what is the fate of Ring of Honor? I think it just sort of continues on as the developmental arm of AEW. As long as AEW is around, Ring of Honor is going to be there to move people to and fro and from. Let's see here. One last one here. We got two last ones here. Lardy Boy says, did you ever consider becoming a pro wrestler? No. There are many things that I have found interest in that I have been interested in doing. For example, I was a big comic book fan growing up, and so I wanted to make comic books. And if you want to buy some of my comic books, you can still do that by going to mfshophere.com. I think that's still the link, mfshophere.com. Is it still up? Oh, it's still up. Yeah. You can get my comic books at mfshophere.com. I loved movies as a teenager. I got really into like film, and I wanted to be a filmmaker. I made a couple short films here and there. I liked pro wrestling starting in college. Never once not a one time did I ever want to be a pro wrestler, because physically speaking and like coordination wise, I know that I would hurt myself within my first couple of training sessions. Like probably bad, like concussion bad, like I'd be that. So I knew that, and I never wanted to be a pro wrestler. It looked like it. Even when I was younger, it looked like that shit hella hurt. So no, God, no, I never want to be a pro wrestler. It's fun talking about it, though. Fuzzy Dunlap says, we're going to end on this one. You encounter the neighborhood bad guy attempting to steal some old lady's purse, some old bag's purse. Ever the hero you run across to save the day? What wrestling move do you use to hold/subdue the suspect until the police arrive? I think, you run over there, shotgun drop kick, put him in the cripple or crossface until the police get there. They're tapping out. Cops are like, let him go, let him go. And then you let him go. DQ, I guess, because I didn't let him go on the 5 count, but then they're going to jail. I might be going to jail because I don't think you're allowed to do. I don't think you're allowed to just attack people even if they're bad guys. So anyways, there you go. There you do. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Appreciate it. Do me a favor, hit that like button. Hey, for the people who stuck around till the very end, I'm going to offer this up real quick. Me and Larson over at the Going In Raw podcast, we are trying to hit a certain subscription number goal over there. Right now, we're almost about 100 subs away from our goal of 198,891 subs. It's a palindrome number. Same from beginning to end to beginning. And so if you guys have not yet subbed to the Going In Raw Pro Wrestling Podcast channel over on YouTube, do me a favor. It's free. It's easy. You just hit that subscribe button, a little notify bell next to it. Do the same here at this channel and hit that thumbs up. I'd appreciate it. It'd be a huge, huge solid for me. Until next time, we'll see you guys around.